Hey, how's it going guys, and welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to share with you guys how to get a perfectly exposed image in every one of your shots. All you guys need is to use a pre-built-in function in your camera and also a little practice in utilizing that function. But before we start, my name is Ken. I'm a professional wedding photographer traveling all around the world to shoot wedding photographs for my clients. So let's go. Now, to be honest, there are many ways for one to get a perfectly exposed shot, from using a light metering device to using your own sense of experience. But there is a very simple way which I personally use, and this method can be used even if you are new to photography. Now, I'm going to specifically share and use this method on wedding photography only. But note that this method is not limited to be used on wedding photography, and you can apply this in any type of photography if the requirements are met. Okay, let's get straight into it, and as mentioned earlier, you will specifically need to use one of your camera's built-in feature to assist you to get that perfect shot. And that feature is none other than the internal light meter, which looks like this and can usually be seen through your camera's viewfinder. Now, if you look at the light meter, you will see a minus sign on the left, a plus sign on the right, and in between both of the signs is a zero or a dot, depending on which camera brand you are using. Now, what this light meter does is basically telling you if your image is under or overexposed. If the indication is pointing towards the minus sign, it means your shot is technically underexposed, and if it's pointing towards the plus sign, it means that your shot is overexposed. But do keep in mind that reading of the light meter in your camera is dependent on which metering mode you are using, meaning that using different metering modes will yield different readings and indications. There are a few standard types of metering modes in our cameras, such as the center-weighted metering, evaluative metering, partial metering, and so on. As for this technique I'm sharing with you guys, we only need to use the spot metering mode. Now, how spot metering works is, it will only read the exposure from a single point on the center of the camera frame. To make this technique work, we have to keep one important thing in mind, that is to never allow the brightest part of an image to be overexposed or underexposed. And in the case of wedding photography, it's usually the white gown of the bride, but it's never limited to only white gowns. To perform this technique, simply change your camera's metering mode to spot metering and point towards the brightest part of your image, which in this example is the white gown. Now, in order for the white gown to be properly exposed in the shot, hold your spot meter on the gown and see what the light meter reads. If the light meter is pointing towards the minus sign, it basically means that your gown is underexposed. And with the gown being the brightest part of the image, that will mean the rest of your image will be severely underexposed. And we wouldn't want that to happen. Now, if the light meter is pointing towards the plus sign, that means the gown is overexposed, and once the gown is overexposed, you know that you will have to bring the overall exposure lower. Okay, now pay close attention, because here comes the tricky part. If the light meter is pointing towards the middle, that must mean that the exposure is spot on, right? Well, no, it's still not. Simply because the middle part of the light meter indicates that the area is in the grey zone. I know this is a bit confusing, but let me explain this in the simplest way possible. Now have a look at this diagram. This is what we call the zone system. The more we move towards the minus sign means the darker or more underexposed the zone is. And when we move back up to the middle part, we are reaching the neutral part of the zone, which is the grey zone. And if we continue to move towards the plus sign, we will then reach the white zone, or overexposed zone if you will. You have to understand that the camera sees things differently from us. What our camera sees are only tones which are black, white, and different shades of grey in between, just like so. Now, if you were to capture a white gown, do you think that the white gown should be in the grey zone, or should it be more towards the white zone? Needless to think, of course it has to be in the white zone. Okay, let's do an experiment now and point your cameras towards a white cloth, and then adjust your camera settings so that the light meter is reading to the middle or the grey zone. Take a shot and you will see that the white cloth is underexposed, simply because the setting of your shot is indicating that the white cloth is to be shot as a grey object rather than a white object. Now, to properly expose the white cloth, or in the case of wedding photography, the bride's white gown, I usually find it accurate if I move the light meter 1.5 or 2 stops towards the plus sign, meaning I'm placing the white gown more towards the white zone. And if you take your shot now, you will see that the white cloth will now be captured at a proper exposure. If you guys are interested to learn more about this complicated zone system, just head to your search box and search for Ansel Adams Zone System. It's an interesting system where you can learn and master how exposure works in your shot. But I personally don't like to complicate things and would like to keep things simple. Hence, this technique I'm sharing with you guys is a very simplified version of the zone system. You will only have to keep one thing in mind, that is to not allow the brightest part of your image to be overexposed or underexposed. And this can be controlled by using the spot metering and gauging the exposure using the built-in light meter. Now, I must remind you that this technique will not always give you the perfect exposure because white gowns in different lighting conditions will react differently. But this is a very solid technique for you to quickly gauge your image's exposure and build your shot from there. If you haven't tried this technique out, go and give it a try, and if you love it, keep practicing this technique, and soon after, you will be able to gauge your shot's exposure much more accurately, and you will be able to get that perfect exposure in every shot. Alright, there you have it guys, a great technique to get that perfect exposure in every shot. If you guys find this video helpful, please help me support and grow this channel by smashing the like button and subscribing to the channel. Also, remember to check out my updated works in Facebook and Instagram at Kennfoo Weddings. Alright, I'm ending this video here, and as always, my name is Ken, and I'll see you guys in the next one.